Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Overnight Success. Today I'm joined by unarguably, indisputably the most fashionable man in Nigeria. You can't argue with your gate man or your friend on Twitter, but we're not taking like any pushback on that. Hi Denola, how are you doing?
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm okay.
Thanks for having me on here.
Nice to have you.
Thank you for the wash. I appreciate that. I'm trying to like take the compliment. I'm like, thanks guys.
Okay, so when we do these interviews, like I usually start by asking a slightly silly question.
Sure.
Just like a little dilemma. So let's imagine you're in a building or you're at sea and there's a lifeboat. So there's you, your partner, and your child. But the lifeboat can only take two people.
Right.
Who are you allowing?
Only two people?
Yeah.
How's this a silly question?
It's
That's kind of messed up. I guess just for optics, I have to put my partner and my child on the boat.
So you die?
Probably, yeah.
Why?
Because, honestly, long. Because then if I now leave them to die, then I'll live with the guilt forever, and I'll be like, oh my god, I kind of let them to die. So might as well just X.
Hi, my name is Mayowa. I'm a lawyer, writer, and journalist, and I'm also editor-in-chief of Culture Custodian. Overnight Success is an interview series where I speak to some of my favorite creators and entrepreneurs on the journeys and stories that got them to where they are. That is, young, successful people doing interesting things. I don't think there's any such thing as an overnight success, or is there? Find out more by watching this video. And when you're done, please subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, and share it with as many people as possible. Thank you. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Overnight Success. Yeah. In saying that, I think there's a link to one of the things I kind of obviously note about you. So there's this thing called middle child syndrome, where when you're the middle child, sometimes people feel neglect because a lot of attention tends to devolve to the first child or the last one. You're the middle child, family of three boys. How did that shape your experience growing up?
It's interesting. I don't think it was always top of mind that, I'm the middle child. I think I was just navigating so much at such a young age that I didn't even really have time to think about, my position within the family. My older brother was he wasn't always getting in trouble, but he was super, super smart. And then he was also the one that they tested all the things on, do this exam, go to this boarding school. And then I just kind of had to follow suit. And then after my younger brother was born, when I was six, obviously they were paying a lot of attention to him as well. But then I kind of was left to, I was always super sensitive, very sensitive. And I was also bullied a lot around that period. So I kind of, in a lot of ways, emotionally raised myself. I just didn't really I couldn't really connect with people. So I was in my own little world. Not they weren't paying attention to me at all. It's I wasn't a non-confrontational person that was always getting bullied. And I also didn't know how to really voice how I was feeling about things. I was just kind of just in my own world and just doing my own things, not playing with people and just being by myself.
Okay, so how did you navigate that? Because the way it sounds like it could have been obviously destructive, but how were you able to navigate it in a way that you were able to rise above it?
I don't know. I think when I think back as to when I was a child, I think subconsciously I've not tried to forget a lot of it, but I haven't really dwelled on it per se. I think I did try to connect with people, and then I ended up going to boarding school when I was 10, 11.
Was this Green Springs?
No.
Idowu?
I went to Idowu. Because my older brother went to Idowu, and it was kind of if he's doing that, then you're going to do that. There was no question. I also did the applications, the exams for Olashere, Loyola, and a couple of other schools. I got into everything but Loyola.
Same here.
Yeah.
That was the only one I didn't pass.
Shade. And but then I was I guess I'm going to Idowu. So I went to Idowu, and it was awful. It was awful, and I think that also made me further kind of I just didn't really feel like I fit in with anyone or anywhere, because the building that I was dealing with in Green Springs. Once I did say, did 2 years there. I did GS1, GS2 on the first semester of GS3, and I had to leave. It was awful. Like my grades started slipping. I was always in like the top, 10 percentile of any class. But I don't know, I couldn't connect, and I was terribly homesick, and the building was a lot as well. And I just wasn't connecting with people. So I just went back to Lagos, and I went back to Green Springs. But then by the time I got back to Green Springs, everybody else that I knew from private school had already formed cliques. So again, I was kind of like, So yeah, I was by myself a lot, but then I would try and connect with people. And I've just always been in my head.
Okay, so at one point, did you realize you started to connect with people?
It was actually properly not until I was like 17, 18. Yeah. Like I would have friendships, but then I never really, I wasn't really trying to visit people in their houses or keep up with friendships. I think maybe subconsciously I didn't trust people. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't really connect. But I'll say like my first like best friend is, and we're still besties to this day, Sonia Irabo. She's a phenomenal screenwriter, actor, director, writer. She's an amazing person. And she was in Green Springs as well, but it wasn't after we graduated that we came super tight. And then a year after that, I met like my other best friend, Falabi Musoro. We both happened to be going to Bayo University, and we just clicked, and we've been friends ever since. So I went from having not that many friends when I was in Nigeria. Then when I went to Bayo, I kind of, not consciously, but I kind of like came out of my shell a bit more. I was also in like an environment where I was allowed to be a bit more expressive, and people didn't really know what to do with me because I was foreign. So they're like, is he super effeminate or is he just foreign? So they didn't really like have to, they didn't really know what to do with me. And obviously the fashion also helped as well. So I ended up like not having a lot of friends, to being like super, super popular in uni.
Okay.
So it was like night and day. Like they ended up doing an article on me in uni. Yeah. So it was a bit interesting, that switch.
Okay. So when you became popular, how did obviously relative to where you were coming from, where you had obviously struggled to connect with people, and then you find yourself within a short time, everyone wants to be your friend. Like, how did you navigate that? Like, so, because the thing is, I imagine when you were not popular, you probably were like, when people would speak to you, I'd assume you would like, why is this person talking to me? What are they looking for? And then obviously when you become popular, do you have like a cynical approach to it where it's like, are people just trying to be friends with me because I'm cool? Or
so the thing is, I never see myself the way other people see me. So I would never, like looking back, I can be like, oh, I became really popular. But when I was in it, I didn't.
Okay, so it didn't feel like that at the time.
It just felt like, oh, this is my life. Like, it's fine. Okay. Like, it just kind of was a natural progression. I will say though, like all the years of spending, time by myself in my own world, I started dealing with anxiety at a very, very young age. I just never really knew how people were going to receive me or how I was allowed to show up in the world. So like I've been hyper vigilant ever since I was a kid. And when you're in survival mode that long, like it does affect the way, you show up in the world. Like I battled anxiety my entire life. And when it goes unchecked, sometimes it does lead to like full on depression, So that's something that's also advanced most of my life up till now. And so when I was super popular at Bayo, I was also going back to my room and I was like sitting on the bathroom floor and I was like crying because I just didn't know. I didn't feel like in my body. I was like hyper, vigilant, and I was also kind of like, I just wasn't really, up to now I still don't really entirely know what I was like anxious about. But it was like, okay, I'm super out there now. I'm dressing the way I want to dress. Are people going to accept me this way, or am I going to give people it again? So maybe that's what it was. I don't know. I've been in and out of therapy, so hopefully one day I get a good therapist and I'll be like, that's what happened. But until then, it's just vibes.
Okay, so one of the things I find, kind of interesting, obviously, are your parents in terms of what they do, because I think like it's creative leaning, and I always imagine like, I mean, your mom runs like a school
outfitting, stationery,
business,
yeah.
and then your dad is a medical doctor who has a thing for like sound design, and
and he's an autodidact.
That's what he's. So how did obviously growing up in that type of home with those type of parents, how did that shape and influence you?
I will say that it was really helpful. My parents have always supported, whatever it is that we want to do. They're like, whatever it is you want to do, just make sure you do it well. Like, it was never a matter of like, oh, you have to go study. In fact, they even, because I'm a British citizen, obviously I know not everybody has the opportunity to like study abroad or, whatever, but, my parents worked hard to make sure that, we could have that opportunity. But they also didn't let me come to England because they felt that, some of the courses were a bit more regimented and a bit more like either you're studying,
law or politics.
Politics, international relations, or like medicine or engineering. Like there wasn't niche majors. And so they, worked extra hard and they sacrificed a lot to make sure that, we got to go to school in America, which is, if you know what American fees are like.
It's more expensive,
it's insane. And I got into Baylor. I had a scholarship and I got into Baylor. I think it was like 12. I lost it though. But,
how did you lose it?
Don't worry about it. It's okay. It was, that year. I'll tell you about this. Oh God. Anyway, I studied media business, so I was able to do a major like media business at Baylor, which means I got to do business classes in the business school. I was also doing communications and production methods in the communications school as well. So that kind of opportunity could only happen if I went to uni in America, And that was the sacrifice that they made for me, and I'm eternally grateful. And also the best 4 years of my life. Well, yes. Looking back now, yes.
Okay, so do you consider yourself religious?
No.
Okay.
I'll say I'm spiritual.
Okay, so I think the reason why I asked that, because obviously you went to Baylor, which is like a proper
conservative Baptist University in Central Texas,
And that, like, obviously Texas is like conservative country.
Yeah.
So someone like, I mean, obviously like you who's coming from Nigeria, why was that where you decided you didn't
I didn't really care when I went to uni. I just wanted to leave Nigeria, to be honest with you.
Fair enough.
I remember I wasn't connecting with people there. I didn't feel connected with anyone. And I applied to literally 3 universities, actually 2.5, because one of them asked for SATs too, and I was like, I'm not doing that. So I applied to Penn State and Baylor, and I got into both. I got scholarships in Baylor, and my brother was already at Baylor. And I was like, Texas has the same weather as Nigeria. Mad. So I just went to like, I didn't. When I tell you, and the thing is like, in fact, right now I'm having like a imposter syndrome, because like when I think about a lot of things that I've done, I'm like, I've just been winging it from time. Like, I've not actually been deliberate about a lot. I've just kind of been like, and but one thing about me is if you put me anywhere, any opportunity I'm giving, I'll do 110%. But I may not actively choose it.
But if you wind up there, you'll make your best.
Who wants the name attached to nonsense? No.
Okay, so talk to me about, obviously, again, like back to the experience at Baylor. So you're coming into this, like, obviously super conservative background. Obviously it's a Christian school, and I mean, I guess you're discovering yourself, but you're also like, it's an opportunity for you to explore like the truest version of yourself. Yeah. So like, how was that? How were those? I mean, you said it was the best 4 years of your life. So talk to me about
the worst, but best. It was interesting. Like I didn't go there thinking I have an opportunity to reinvent myself now. It was never that deliberate. I've never been that calculated about that. I try to say I don't care about presenting in a certain way, but I think secretly we all do. I just wanted to find my people, I think, or just to feel like I wasn't alone in a lot of ways. And because I spent a lot of time by myself, and I'm going somewhere with this, I was socialized a lot by like media. Like, so I was watching a lot of movies and American shows and things like that. So there was an ideal of a space where that I longed to be in, and America represented that. So like when I got to Baylor, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have like the ultimate college experience, like where I'm wearing slouchy sweaters and I'm like being cute and like, just being the all-American, like, I was trying to create that for myself because that's what That was my escapism in a way. But then I actually had to like go to school and study. So that was the part that I wasn't necessarily, that's how I lost my scholarship. So the first year I did quite well. I got like a decent GPA, like I was in the high threes. By sophomore year, I didn't realize that like because of the bullying and stuff, there were so many things that I wasn't really exploring. I was dressed in a certain way. I was, still wearing like, skater boy, like loose, ill-fitting jeans, Vans, and like t-shirts. Like I just wasn't like there was when I was 18.
I would love to see those pictures.
They're there. Like oh my god, American Eagle. I mean, no shades American Eagle. I would tease. I thought I'd ruin my bag. I love you guys. You guys are great. But I wasn't dressing like that because I didn't think I was allowed. And then I don't know what happened to me. I mean, I know exactly what happened to me, but I ain't gonna tell you what happened to me when I was 18. But something significant happened when I was 18 years old, and I was like, well, there's no turning back now. So let me just lean into everything that I feel that I want to do and how I want to dress and how I want to be. And I like from when I was 19, my sophomore year, I just like, started like using whatever small pocket money I had to like buy the clothes I wanted to buy. When people were getting drunk and drunk texting people, I was drunk shopping. Yeah, it wasn't the best, thing to do at the time, but like it's what fed me at that time. And I was like, I can't control a lot in my life or how people receive me, but what I can control is how I present myself and how I feel about myself. Mm-hmm. So fashion became like kind of like my outlet for that and how to like express myself. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I started just using fashion as a way to kind of like make friends. And when you have an outfit, it's a conversation starter. And very soon I became the guy that always looks nice. And then people are like, you're that guy that always like dresses up to class. I'm like, oh yeah, hi, nice to meet you. Mm-hmm. And then from that it became a thing. And then the rumor went around that I was a prince. And I tried to dispel that. I really did try. I was like, guys, I'm not a prince. I swear to you, this and the other.
You were told that you're an Ondo prince now. There was no way they could fact check that.
Facts. But the thing is that like, one thing about me, I don't like lying.
Yeah.
I don't like lying. I'd rather just like not say anything at all. And I always tell the truth. It gets me in trouble all the time, but I tell the truth as much as possible. So I was like, no, I'm not a prince. But then by the time they see the outfits and then they like, and obviously like there's an accent, they're like, oh, he's foreign and he's a prince. So I just went with that for like 3 years. Not a prince, guys. Not a prince.
Okay, so you were talking about studying media business. Mm-hmm. I'm very curious, like how you got to that decision that was what you wanted to study, and then I think the thing from that is like when you were making that decision, what did you think? Like, when I graduate, what am I going to do? What was the plan?
So this is the part, and I feel like I need to apologize to everybody that's looking to me for inspiration, because honestly, like it's just been vibes. I can't even lie to you. Like I did not declare my major until my final year of uni, because I was just getting all my prerequisites out of the way. Because I was stalling. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So at first I was like, I'll just do business journalism. I can write, and like I guess business journalism is a respectable thing to do. I don't really care about that stuff, But I don't know. So I did, and I did something very, very dumb. Don't do this. If you ever go to uni in America, don't make sure that you start taking classes of things that you might be interested in and your prerequisites. Leave some prereqs for your last year, because you're going to have senioritis. Like you're going to be burnt out. By your 4th and 5th year, you will be burnt out. Know how about it. But I ended up taking all my difficult classes in my senior year. That's kind of contributed to me like losing my scholarship. Because I never failed a class, but I didn't do.
Well, you weren't doing like.
I wasn't doing great.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of things I'm going to touch on as well. Also, like kind of how we shame children with test taking. Because it affected the way I started taking tests in university as well. I was shamed a lot in Green Springs. Yes. So when I left Adesoye and I went back to Green Springs, I was switching from the Nigerian system, the Nigerian curriculum,
to the British.
Back to the British. So I ended up in Green Springs in middle of year 9, which is when they do checkpoints exams. Okay. So these kids had notes from year 7, year 8, and like the first semester of year 9 to study from. I didn't have those notes. And the semester I got in was the semester that they were doing checkpoints, and I had to do checkpoint that semester as well. So I got someone's notes and was like reading basically 2.5 years of material in like maybe 5 weeks, trying to like, because it wasn't the same thing that I was learning in Adesoye. And I remember doing my checkpoints exams. Obviously the grades weren't great. I again still didn't feel anything, but the pass mark I think was like 70%, and I think I got like 69.8 or something. Then they had this system in Green Springs during assembly when they'll give out warning letters and probation letters for people who are underperforming, and then they will read your name out during assembly, and you collect your warning letter on stage and your probation letter on stage. And that happened so many times because I would always get like just close to the pass mark, which would be like 69.9 or whatever. And I knew I wasn't stupid because my assignments were always good. But then when it came to taking a test, there was so much pressure that I didn't want to get a warning letter that I would like make some silly mistakes or I would freeze and things like that. And I actually ended up thinking that I was stupid for the longest time. I was like, oh my God, I'm dumb. Like I'm not a smart person. And I got a couple of warning letters. Like when I say couple, I got like probably more than 8, more than 9. And I went from being in the top classes in Adesoye to being shamed from academics, going to Oxbridge for 1 year because I was 15 when I left Green Springs, and in that time, because I was good to America, I did my A-levels. I did sociology, economics, and literature in 1 year, and I got 2 A's and a B, which is a far cry from what I was getting in Green Springs. And I was like, boom, I'm not stupid. That grade from Oxbridge got me the scholarship to Baylor.
Okay.
But then when I got to Baylor, I was like, I was having an identity crisis. And so by sophomore year, I was dealing with severe anxiety and depression. I was going out a lot, I was drinking a lot. And so my grades dipped, like really, really badly. And I remember kind of just like, I think I stopped drinking for like 10 months after that. I got really bad alcohol poisoning. I was like, I need to focus. That's why I'm here. So I did study abroad program. Shout out to my parents again. They pulled everything they could together because it wasn't really an easy time in my family at that time as well. It wasn't like there was a lot going on. Well, we're in the middle of a recession, and also like they had 2 kids at Baylor and they were paying everything out of pocket, but I had to redeem my GPA somehow. So and I wasn't going to finish on time if I didn't do an extra semester, summer semester. So they sent me to do a summer abroad in Maastricht, and I ended up getting like a really good GPA there. So that kind of kept me afloat. So when I now did the senior year from hell. So and also about balance. But yeah, the test taking thing, it affected me all through Baylor because I was terrible at my not recently, but like even affected like the way I would think that like, oh, maybe I'm not, knowledgeable enough to talk about these things. But when I talk about certain things I'm passionate about, or just even world events or whatever, and I hear myself, I'm like, I'm not stupid now. Like, I'm not stupid. I'm actually like really fucking smart. So I had to, and I think that's why it probably irks me, like when people only want me to talk about fashion, and I'm like, my brain, like I'm a smart person. Like, please let me use my brain.
Okay, so after Baylor, you come back to Nigeria at some point.
I did after Baylor. So you were asking about what I wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
I chose media business based on vibes, and I was like, I realized that like I didn't have a plan. When I was collecting my certificates on stage, Ken Star handed me my certificate. I walked across the stage in my bright electric blue suits and orange shirts, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing in my life from here. There was no internship, no jobs, nothing, and I was like, I really just fucked it.
So what did you do next? What did you do after that?
I went to Dallas, and I was like, I had OPT for 1 year, and I was like, I need to start applying to jobs.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember what kind of jobs I was applying for. And then my mom was like, Denola, you've always wanted to live in New York. Like, do you want to like maybe see if you can get a job there? Then I was like, yeah, I'll do PR. Like, it just seemed like a glamorous thing to do. Because I'm like, what jobs can I do with media business?
You went to Sex and the City.
I did. Okay, like low key though, like that's literally what I did in 2012.
Don't worry, I did that too. So I can imagine like
6 seasons.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Back to
back. The thing is, because obviously I watched Sex and the City so much, I just know the way you watched it, and your brain was like,
my brain was like,
this could be me.
This could be me. Thankfully, we had family out there, so I didn't have to pay rent. And then I was on a plane to New York, and I did get an internship at a fashion PR firm, and was handling like luxury brands. So I got to do New York Fashion Week, and I got to like send samples to like Rihanna, Nicki Minaj, and things like that. It was cool, unpaid. I looked great, very fine. I was so poor. Oh my god, I was so poor. There was no money. And then I had to go back to Nigeria because my OPT was over.
Yeah.
And I was only meant to be in Nigeria for 1 year because I was like, for me, Nigeria represented taking several steps back based on like my personality.
Yeah.
And I was like, just do your NYC and get out. You know, just go there, blow up your life in Nigeria, and like move to London. That was like my plan. I ended up staying there for 8-9 years. So.
Okay, so.
Y'all won.
And the thing, I think it's very hard to like place you within one thing. You've done a bunch of things like creatively. Like I remember you hosting the DRB concerts in like 2014.
Oh my god, I did that.
Yeah, that's like.
That is true.
So then there was obviously the point where you were presenting on TV. There's been the acting. There's been. There's obviously been the fashion. There's now been like obviously the modeling / influencing. Like so you've just, you know, across this whole gambit. But what was the first thing you ever did for money?
I tried to do fashion PR in Niger, and I tried to help one of my friends' brands do a press release and like announce that collection. I think my first gig paid me like 10K or 15K.
Naira.
Yeah, that's the first thing I did for money. And then after that, I actually worked at Alara before Alara
Became Alara.
Opened the building.
Oh, okay.
They had a personal shopping salon in Penn House in Parkview, and the title was fashion consultant, but I was definitely I was a sales associate, so I was just doing like I think my salary was like 60K, and it was taxed because I was doing NYSC that year as well. So that was my first. But I did try to get a 9 to 5 at an e-commerce company, and I got fired.
Which one? You don't. I mean,
it doesn't exist anymore.
Again. Okay, cool.
Actually, it never really took off. But they fired me, and the guy that fired me was like, "Denola, I'm doing you a favor. You do not belong
in like office. 9 to 5.
You need to."
Yeah, I was gonna. That's because I'm very curious about the fact that I've never really worked like a 9 to 5.
Which, I know, but I'm suffering. I'm paying for that right now, though.
I mean, yeah. There's obviously. So, what are like the good parts and the bad parts of that?
I saying like what I wish I had learned from a 9 to 5, or like what my journey has been without a 9 to 5?
What your journey has been without a 9 to 5?
Okay, so I will say that after I quit Alara, with love, obviously, like I worked through a lot of stuff with them. I love them, and you know, Mrs. F is like my mentor. Honestly, love her to bits. I leaned into creating my own content, so that's how Denola Gray came about. When you don't have a safety net of a paycheck coming your way, you make your own luck. And I knew that people kept asking me what it was I did for work, and I didn't want to be an NFA that my parents just wasted a lot of money on in America that wasn't working. So I was like, even if they knew me for something, let them just know me for at least my carriage and how I present myself. So that's how I shot this in my outfits and whatever. So I learned how to kind of like be creative and to lean into what comes in naturally. And I also kind of learned I learned people. Like I learned to listen more to what people are saying.
That's a very powerful statement.
Yeah,
I learned people.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like this still they bust my brain shot because people actually know. But I learned to listen a lot more. I kind of hear what people are really trying to offer you, because a lot of time, a lot of it's smoke and mirrors. People want to sell you dreams or try and get you to work for free. I did work for free for a long time, for about a year before I started like seeing the fruits of my labor, and I could only do that because I was doing my NYSC and I was living at home. And I was living at home all through until I left Niger to move out here to London. And I'm still shuttling, but I'm doing less shuttling now and I'm here more now. So I learned how to be innovative. I also learned how to make money stretch because when you're a freelancer and a creative, the payments are sporadic. And because I knew I needed multiple streams, I kind of had to see the different avenues in which I could explore and kind of like be innovative in. So if it wasn't going to be creating my own fashion content, it was going to be writing for The Guardian Nigeria, which I did, or like even South to Bella Nigeria. If I wasn't going to be doing that, it was going to be shooting guest stints. I was producing my own fashion segments and styling myself in Ebony Life when I did that. So
I remember that.
So I was doing that for some time, and then they asked me to be a full-time on-air anchor for EL Now. And all seasons, I styled myself for my wardrobe. Like I was styling myself for 70 episodes per season, just so you know.
That's another flex. See why I say he's the most fashionable man in Nigeria.
I know, but the thing is, but that also taught me fashion economics because I would get suits and I could make
10, 20 looks out of them.
Out of five to six suits, you know. So wearable service became my thing. I just became very, very creative. I learned how to shop on a budget, and I wasn't like, I'm not really attached to designer stuff. I'm not. Because to me, like, once the thing is photographed, I'm probably not going to wear it again. So I'm not going to spend like a brick on clothes. First of all, don't even have the coins because I don't. I'm just like, and the thing is, another thing I learned is what the appearance of confidence does, because unintentionally, so I don't like misleading people, but I'm very aware of how I present, and I've let people think what they want to think, but they think I'm like super wealthy and I have money.
Yeah, they project.
I do not. I'm working on it though. I want to, but I don't. And it's because like I know how I dress and how I carry myself. Also because those are the things I just like. And because of how I carry myself and the things that I've done, it has led me into rooms that I would have otherwise not been in before. If there wasn't a certain level of delusion of confidence or grandeur, I guess. Mm-hmm. So yeah, everything informs the next thing, I guess.
Okay, so at what point would you say in Nigeria, because obviously you're doing a lot of things at once because you're trying to like obviously cast your net wide so that, you know, if something clicks, it will click well. But then what you end up having is a situation where you're good at like multiple things.
Multiple things, yeah.
So at what point did you realize, okay, like this thing is actually working? Like,
I don't think I've ever gotten to that point. Up to now, I still don't think I've gotten to that point.
Even after Fenty?
I'm serious. Like I did get advice. I think I've been in hustle mode for almost 10 years and I haven't taken my foot off the gas. So it's kind of like once something happens, I'm like, all right, that's great.
What next?
What next?
Yeah, I struggle with that too. You don't appreciate things when they happen because you're
I don't appreciate them because when I got Fenty, I was really, really happy. Mm-hmm. But it's also, and I'll tell you the full story about Fenty in a second because I think that's also a part that people don't understand about that. Everything that I've done has informed the next thing. Mm-hmm. And so even though I haven't had a clear map, I've kind of followed the breadcrumbs. So, because I do things to the best of my ability, the quality of the work speaks for itself, and then you get a referral to the next thing. Mm-hmm. Or you have a bit more currency to ask for certain things, or even have a bit more leeway for people to think that you're bankable and put their time or resources or energy behind you. So I never really felt like I made it in Nige until I would look at, you know, some of my TV episodes and be like, I just shot 70 episodes in 10 days and I styled myself in 80 outfits because I still had to do like my segments that I was producing for that as well. And when I now got to do Castle and Castle, I was like, okay, I didn't choose this career, it kind of just happened to me. Mm-hmm. But like,
so that's the first acting thing you did
ever.
Yeah.
And a lot of and you know, I've made it a point of duty that I was never going to clear shit up because people like assuming things, and I've gotten a lot of emails and messages from people assuming things about my career and calling me like things like a nepo baby and things like that. And I want to make something very, very clear. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I do not come from a privileged background. I do, and I'm very grateful to my parents for that, and I'm very aware of some of the opportunities that I have had, and I have taken advantage of them. However, my entire career, I use a different name for a reason. My parents have had nothing to do with it. I have worked my ass off for every single thing I've gotten. I've auditioned for everything. I've not been handed anything. I've worked for free for a long time to build that, I guess, reputation and like currency. And I've also been turned down from things because people automatically assume that, you know, I'm not, I don't deserve it. So I work really, really, really hard to dispel that.
Yeah.
So like, and when I did Castle and Castle, a common misconception is that they just handed me the role. I did 3 auditions. The first time I got called to read for Benjamin Castle, I was up against 4 other Nollywood actors that are doing quite well right now. In fact, they all won AMVCAs. So I don't have an AMVCA. And I'm like, you know what? Vibes. Like, I'm not going to get this role. Like, it's fine. Let me just even tell a cool story that I auditioned for a TV show and then I got a call back and I was like, jokes. So I was like, let me go for the call back again.
Yeah.
Down to 3 actors now. Guys that I was tensioned. I was like, this one is definitely getting it. I know this guy's face. I've seen him in things. He was just coming off a big show and that was on African Magic. I'm like, all right, let me just do this. I did the callback, and then that last time I do get a phone call, and it's somebody on the phone, and it's like, it's a man, it's a very deep voice. It's like, is this Denola Gray? I'm like, yes, it is. Who is this? And he's like, this is Richard Moffat Damager. I've seen your auditions, and I would really like you to play Benjamin Castle. So this final audition, make sure you bring it and kill it. And I was just so stunned, and I was like, first of all, how do you get in? I was like, so I went to my friend Idowu. She's an amazing actor.
That's right. Yeah.
And she just called me. I'm so nervous. And then the last audition was a read through with RMD and Dakore. I call
your parents on TV on the show.
And I was like, well, I mean, if anything, at least this was a cool experience. I always just like left it there, and I get the email like 2 days later being like, you've been cast as Benjamin Castle, and I'm like, okay. But everything I learned on set as I was doing the job, and I would always ask the directors like, am I doing a good job? I know I can do this better. Let's do this again. Let me try this again. And I'll ask. I call R&D Papa. I'm like, Papa, what are some other things I can do better?
Something I was gonna talk to you about. So like, you have obviously like an on-screen. He's your father on screen in Castle and Castle. Castle and Castle, by the way, got me through COVID. Phenomenal.
Well, thank you for watching.
Yeah. And so what's it like having someone like him who is like, you know, a legend in every like dimension you could think of? Was it like having a relationship with like, you know, such a legend, like such a legendary actor?
I mean, I think it really is a blessing. I think it's a really great thing. And I'm gonna just be very candid and say like, it's not only him. So many people on that set were so gracious and welcoming and very patient with me when I was doing Castle and Castle. DME, Okalawo, Blossom, Ade,
It's a very star-studded cast.
Yeah. Eku was there as well. Dorcas, like everybody was just so great, and so I had to give everybody their props as well. It wasn't only Papa that helped me through that, but from then on, we just kind of got along well. You know, because we shared a dressing room, and
oh my Lord,
I used to help him. Like with the bow ties, because I was the only one that could do self-tie bow ties there. And so from then on, he lost fashion too, and it was just nice. And from then on, you know, we did another movie together. It's not out yet. It's going to come out sometime soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
different dynamic. What I can't tell you much about it because things, but yeah, he's just always been very like protective, and he was always like championing my success. Like I remember when Fenty came out, like he was under my like, I'm so proud of you, and I was like, thanks. So it really is a nice thing. But also I call Dakore Mrs. D because I'm a well-trained Yoruba boy, very respectful. Mrs. D has also been really lovely to me as well too, on set and otherwise. So just having that community has been really beneficial.
Okay. There was something you were talking about earlier on, and we kind of dug into it, but we didn't. So considering you've never worked like, a proper 9 to 5, how have you had to learn like professionalism?
Whew. Well, first of all, just don't be an asshole. I think that's like a universal, staple.
Yeah.
I think I've gotten more from being like respectful and considerate than being a diva or what people think. And I think a lot of people expect me to be a diva because of the clothes, I guess, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
But I can't remember what it was I was watching. It was some Hollywood actor like years ago talking about how the person that he was working with, he really admired because like I would come to set and learn everyone's names and and I took that to heart.
Yeah, just be very personable.
Be very personable, but also realize that like the only reason why the show is there is because there's so many smaller moving parts working together to make things happen. So like when I was on set with EL now, and it was such a high pressure environment, like you could either be there and be a dick and everybody just hates you, or you can make it a really nice place to work by just being warm and friendly and cracking jokes with everyone, cracking jokes with the cleaners and everybody there. And just so when you walk in, they're actually excited to see you. And one thing that you should note is when you're going to be in front of a camera, you gotta need everybody behind the camera to be on your side because they can make you look bad.
Yeah.
So it was equal parts self-preservation, but also like what kind of person do I want to be? Professionalism cuts across corporate jobs and creative jobs. But in creative jobs, people will always remember how you make them feel. And that's what will make them call you back for more stuff.
Okay, so in us having this conversation, what I'm seeing like a common thread of, you obviously working your ass off, getting into these rooms, and then they're like obviously the big cosigns that come. So like you spoke about working at Alara, for instance, and building a relationship with Mrs. Falawi, or you spoke about working at Ebony Life and obviously going on to do other stuff. So going from like the TV arm to like obviously the studio arm, so like film and TV.
Yeah.
And then you now have a situation with like Fenty Beauty. So you've just at every point, like, you just build this network where people like you, people are co-signing you, and you're being able to leverage that into more opportunities. Yeah. So how have you been able to like, just build this like amazing network of people where it might seem like, it's like it's favor of, I mean, there's an element of labor, but there's also an element of favor in that, people can meet you and they might have like a negative experience. So you will not get the next gig.
Yeah.
But what it is it has been like constant, like upward, like motion. Like it's been like just you going in an upward trajectory. Yeah. So how have you like obviously been able to build this network and then been able to like manage them in a way where, everyone is happy and everyone is like rooting for you?
I mean, honestly, every day I'm just winging it. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not calculated. It's just not calculated. I'm just trying to be as authentic as possible. I think also because like maybe I was bullied quite a bit. I just never want another person to feel like shit because of me. So I think that's been my MO just generally. You treat people well and they will treat you well back in return. And again, because of the level of detail I put in my work, if I'm going to do a social media post for your brand, it's not going to be shoddy. It's going to be well done, well shot, well edited, well copied, all of that stuff. Like, I don't half-ass anything I do because I'm the one that's attached to it. If the quality is shit, then because I'm the product, then I'm shit. So there's an acceptance that there's not that much separation between me and my work to an extent. And I kind of had to make sure that, you know, I'm always putting my best foot forward. And I'm also not compromising on like who I am just to get people to like me. And also the main thing I'll say is this: in order to get far in this business, or to even just kind of have the amazing opportunities I've had that I'm so grateful for, you cannot chase fame. Fame is empty. Like the periods where I've been at the peak of popularity and I had like no money in my account. And let me tell you something, that is the worst feeling ever. Because people look at you and they're like, oh, you're everywhere. Like you have all this money and they're asking you for things and for you to help them out or give them money. You're like, I am so broke right now. You have no idea. So that's the one thing I would say about being a creative freelancer that is tough. You have to get very serious about money management, and also getting to a place where you're going to be getting passive income, or you do things in which when things are slow in one aspect, you are working in another avenue where you're bringing in revenue. But if you chase fame, you'll always be chasing approval, and approval fluctuates based on current trends and tastes. So you have to choose authenticity over attachment to approval.
Okay. You spoke earlier on about obviously being more UK facing these days in terms of obviously you've moved out here. Why did you make the decision that, you know, like you wanted to be here more often than like Nigeria?
Well, I mean, in Nigeria, I was definitely doing very well, and I would like to use the opportunity to like just be like very, very candid. Like I'm so grateful for my time in Nigeria. It wasn't easy. There were I took a lot of hits that I don't talk about. Because I just tried not to focus on the negative stuff, and I think I even famously tweeted one time like, from here on out I'm not clearing shit up. However, I am one person, and sometimes when you have so many people spewing negative energy at you, it gets to you and it does make you second guess yourself and how you express yourself sometimes. So I remember like I got COVID in 2020, because remember I was only meant to be in Nigeria for 1 year. So ever since that 1 year, it was always like, well, I'm moving next year, or I'm moving next year, or I'm moving next year.
But it's been almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years. So I kept getting work, and there was a part of me that like was dying as a result of that. The part of me that was adventurous and curious about the world and wanted to see things and do things and experience things that weren't conventional, that were just like, you know, wild, and personally and even professionally. And I couldn't really do that in Nigeria, because it was kind of like, now I'm aware of the fact that the more polarized I get, the more people are interested in my personal life, and any misstep I do can reflect that badly on my family.
Yeah.
So I started hiding myself away. I wasn't going out as much. I would go to events, do 45 minutes there. My social anxiety was getting worse, and the country as well was getting worse.
Yeah.
And I was like anxious all the time. And then I remember getting COVID right after NSARS, which was another tipping point. Because when NSARS happened, I was like, if I get killed in this country for whatever reason, what would my life have looked like? Yes, I got to do cool things and I was in the media or whatever, but like, was I happy? And I did a life analysis and I wasn't happy. My anxiety was higher than it had ever been. The country was in free fall. That NSARS situation, like I was out there protesting every day, but the final day, I remember like the day of the shooting.
Yeah, 20th October.
Yeah, I tweeted at 4 p.m. being like, you guys need to leave there right now, they're removing cameras. Once they remove cameras, then there's not going to be any accountability. Yeah. I think that got like thousands of retweets, and literally 2.5 hours after I tweeted that, they killed all those people.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, I just sat in my room, like, just stunned.
Because that was a very, like, I remember my mom and I just, like, it was, you know, we're watching the Instagram live, DJ Switch, and obviously witnessing that, and we just started crying, like, to each other. And I think it's like, obviously there was, like, obviously a vulnerability, because it just made you realize how, I don't know, inconsequential life can be in Nigeria, where something like that could happen we're watching it live. We're watching it on Instagram
literally
live.
on Instagram live, yeah. And I was just it was mad. I had friends that was calling as well. Deeds, the photographer.
Yeah.
He was literally right there, driving away from the madness. I was hearing the gunshots. So I was talking to him. I was like, "This is mad." I was literally there, like all the other days before. In fact, I even joined FK the first day in Alausa.
Yeah.
I remember like getting down there because I'm like this. I had my own experience with SARS, but it wasn't me personally. Like they took one of my friends in the dead of night, and I was driving around
looking for them.
Lekki Access myself, looking for him at like 3 a.m. I drove to like Ikota. I drove to. God, I almost ended up going towards the mainland, but they were like, you have to stop because I live around Lekki Ikata area, and I was just driving around solo, and I was like, if anything happens to me right now, nobody's gonna know where I am. Like, let me just take my ass back home. They finally released him, the following day. But I was already thinking about how I was going to have to call somebody to get him out. Like, I had no idea where he was. His phone was off. And my mom was visiting from Abuja. It was my aburo as well. I was like, and they just took him. So it became really personal. So I ended up doing a life analysis. I wasn't happy. And I knew that I was also kind of like getting to a point where like I felt stuck. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? London is not my first point of call, but I am a British citizen, and I'm like, I just can work legally there. Mm-hmm. Global domination is it. Not for any other reason than the fact that like, why not? Like I like acting. Why can't I be in Hollywood? Why can't I do this? Like, why can't I do the things that I want to do?
You've done at a bigger scale.
At a bigger scale, yeah. And also because please, I want to end FX.
FX, yeah.
Yeah, like that was the main thing. But I also knew that like and I'm still eternally grateful to my time in Nigeria, to all the Nigerian designers. By the way, Nigerian designers are the main reason why I'm where I am right now. Honestly, Nigerian designers, shout out to Nigerian designers. They are the reason why.
Do you want to put any names out? Like,
there's too many to mention, but because if I don't mention one, I was gonna be like, that's a nice entry, Asha. But I will say this: I'm in London right now. Most of every premiere I go to, every big event I go to, I always wear a Nigerian designer.
That's good.
And because there's so much talent there, and the outfits start conversations, and when the outfits gets me in the room, and then the talent and the personality keeps me there. Yeah. But it all starts from
how you look.
How I look. When I'm wearing Nigerian designers, I'm wearing Kai Collective, and I'm wearing David Wedge jackets.
Oh, the jacket is David Wedge?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually from a suit. Fashion economics. That's how you work it out. So if you see me another day now, I'll wear the same outfit without this trouser. I'll wear this. The pants of this, but yeah.
Okay, so I know this is something you've not really wanted to talk about in terms of obviously your interest in fashion, because if like, but I'm very curious. At what point, like, did you realize that this thing you like and you enjoy, like, at what point did you realize it could become a career?
I'm still kind of like feeling like I'm scamming everybody and myself that I'm making money off of this. It just, yeah. I don't know.
Why do you feel like that? Is it too easy?
No, fashion is not easy.
No, but like, I mean, it's consulting in the way you do, like.
Yeah, so I can do it in my sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because it actually, fashion consulting involves a lot of things I also learned in media as well. It's production. Yeah. And logistics. It really is, because if I'm going to call this vendor and this and get this measurement and this fabric, it's all logistics, and then I get to boss people around. And I think that I can be as like dicky as I want to be, because I'm the authority. I'm like, no, you're not wearing that. And then they're like, okay, cool. Then I was like, I'm not wearing that. I'm like, yeah. it feels great. And I have like these amazing clients, and these are big boys. Lagos are like, and I'm like, no, you look terrible. Take it off. And I'm like, this is nice, but it was actually a friend of mine. It was my friend Rosemary Negbese. It was like years ago in 2016 or 2018. She was like, Denola, because my friends would be like, oh, Denola, what should I wear to this thing? And I'm like, okay, do this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And then they'll go and they'll be like, oh, I got so many compliments on my outfit. I'm like, oh, well done work. And then my uncle Shola, he's a lawyer.
Yeah, he lost his bow ties.
That's where I got it from, actually. But up to now, just like 2 days ago, he was calling me at 11 p.m. Because I knew his entire wardrobe. I don't know how I store this information in my head, but I remember his wardrobe. And then I'm telling him, oh, you know that shirt from this time and this and this and this. I put together like 5 outfits for him over a WhatsApp video. And because he was planning a trip. I used to do that with him before, and he's like, Denola, this is a business. So I was like, But then it came to one time when the TV shows were cancelled.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing, I hadn't started acting yet. You know, influencing wasn't really a thing. It was like 2017. It wasn't like, I was like,
I need money.
So, cause I will. So I was like, yo. So someone was like, well, I need help to know what's get stuff for my wedding. I was like, I even just said it will cost you, and I said, yeah, how much? I was like, well, now that you mentioned it. So that's how it started. But I'm not gonna lie.
Do you want to know who was the first like actual client you had for this, like for the fashion consulting?
The first actual paying client I had wasn't my first client.
Yeah.
But my first client I had properly was Mayowa Musuro. And that's Falabi, my best friend's brother.
Okay.
He was getting married, and he wanted me to style him. He lived in Houston, I was in Nigeria. Wanted me to style him, and I styled him amazingly, if I do say so myself, virtually. Okay. And then I also got all the groomsmen to get their tuxedos from a certain place in Lagos, kimono. Work with kimono all the time. And it came out looking really, really great. And I was like, work, you know?
Okay.
And so then from then, that's when my friend Rosemary was like, you should monetize this, because it's a lot of work. People just think that I'm like, oh, wear this and wear this, and no, like, because I'm doing grooms, it's a bespoke market, so I have to like consult with the designers, and nobody wants to wear something that everybody else has worn. So I'm co-designing the outfits with the designers.
That's not, but I also even think there's also an element of research, because like, for instance, anybody you're working with, like if you're, let's say you're co-designing like their trad outfits. Mm-hmm. So like obviously you have to take into context like their culture. You have to like what, and then obviously
the color of the day, what the bride is wearing. Yeah. I'm talking to bridal stylists. I'm talking to to the groom. I'm looking at his skin tone, his size, his complexion, his height. What time of the day the wedding is going to be? How many outfits he's doing? Because it's Niger weddings. It's not just one outfit. I'm doing like at least 2 for trad, 2 for the white wedding.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I've done 6 outfits, 3, because, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a lot. And I'm procuring shoes, accessories, all those things as well. And that's just one client.
Do you feel validated by people coming to you and basically being like, yeah, I have this event I want to go to, and it's only you that can help me? Like, does that give you validation?
No, it gives me panic. It gives me panic.
Fair enough.
Because it's a risk either way. Like, what if I tell them to wear this thing and I'm pushing them out of their comfort zone? Because there's pushback. They're like, oh, that's too much for him. I'm like, just lean into it. And then they're not like, oh my God, I look terrible. Everybody hated it. What happens then?
It was your fault.
It's my fault. And also, like, because they trust you implicitly, and you have to trust your gut all the time. And also, I have too many tabs open because I'm busy doing so many different things that sometimes I don't have the capacity to take on clients. Yeah. Because I can't give them my all. So.
Okay.
So validation and panic, I guess. It's kind of like, yeah, mad, but at the same time, like.
And how have you been able to build and sustain it? Like, obviously, this is something you said started in, let's say, 2017. It's 2023.
Yeah.
And it seems like, obviously, you know, it's been working. Like, it's something you've been doing.
I think I have to keep being reminded that it's working, because when you're in it, it doesn't feel like it's working all the time. It feels like you are constantly on the verge of losing everything because you're in it. Mm-hmm. But it is true, it is working, because I wouldn't have ever imagined, like, this time when I moved back to Nigeria 10 years ago, that I would be the face of Fenty Beauty UK, and my face would be in boot stores all over the nation from August. Like, that's crazy. You know, and that is, I think when I see that finally, I'll be able to be like, this is okay.
But you didn't feel that when you were like on Netflix and you would see maybe
I did.
the show you were in was maybe like number one.
No, I did. But I think another thing is the way movies are released. I shot Castle and Castle in 2018.
Yeah.
It wasn't on Netflix until 2020.
Yeah. I mean,
it takes time. I shot this movie that's meant to come out this year. I shot in 2021. It's not out yet.
Yeah.
The movie that I shot in 2018 just came out this year, January, on Prime.
Okay, what movie is this?
The Trade. It's like it's based on a true story. Evans, the guy that is just
I know Evans.
Yeah, I play like it was my second ever role in life. So
interesting.
Watching it now, I'm like,
yeah.
no, but yeah. So you don't really, when you're in it, you don't really feel it. But I will say that I do. I just want to talk about this real quick. How do I sustain it? Is that I'm struggling with balance. I'm not gonna lie to you, because like I have so many tabs open. I have so many things I could be doing to bring in, because I'm in a new country as well. I'm trying to adapt, so I have to do the network social side of things that I've already done in Niger. Yeah. I'm doing it again, but this time I'm now burnt out.
Yeah,
I'm dealing with burnout. When I'm dealing with that, I'm trying to figure out where my next few checks are coming from, and I'm doing some influencing here. I'm doing some fashion consultancy here. I'm networking here. I'm also trying to actively like get into the acting space here as well, and I'm trying to still stay in touch with Nigeria. There's not a lot of
you're wearing yourself out, like basically because
so that's also kind of why I wish I did have that 9-to-5 experience to teach me structure. So now at the age of 32, I'm just teaching myself structure, and that's like waking up at a certain time, making sure that if I get my journaling, my meditation, and my prayers in the morning, and then I go to the gym, and then I do X amount of work for 2.5 hours, and I do this and I do that, to make sure that like I get everything done. But some days are dynamic because it's not a 9-to-5. I have to come out an hour and a half to do this. Then I'm going back to Shoreditch for a meeting, and then I have a Barbie something tonight. I have to go to balance, So it's about time management, and but I desperately need a break. But I'll take I'll sleep when I'm dead or whatever. I don't know.
Okay, and I think looking at obviously your journey, and I think because obviously throughout this conversation, it's something we have referenced. So obviously being the face of Fenty, like talk to me about how that happened, and like how you feel, like obviously with such a big win under your belt.
Yeah, it was needed when I got it. Last year was probably one of the most challenging years of my life. I was dealing with moving to a new country. I was having some issues in my personal life as well. And then May last year, I lost like one of my closest friends, Bayo.
Rest of his mind.
Died suddenly, and that like I was already dealing with a lot before he passed. I even spoke to him about it 2 weeks before he died, and my mental health was already kind of like dwindling down, and so whatever edge I was on after he died, I kind of just like went over it, and I just like pretty much felt like I was starting from zero.
The ground zero. Yeah, from the ground
zero, because I had expelled so many resources shuttling between Nigeria and London, trying to make it work. I was paying rent here, but going back to Lagos all the time, doing 2 months in Lagos, 1 month in London, while still paying rent here. So, and I was doing everything while getting paid in Naira. So I was like, the math is a math thing. So by the time I came back into London in June last year, after Bayo's funeral, I kind of just had to sit with myself for a second and be like, you need to figure out what you're gonna do next. I was done. I was like, I'm just gonna crawl back home, and in the famous words of Fergie, if you ain't got no money, take your broke ass home. But then, because I knew I was afraid to come back to London, I knew I had to come back to London.
That's how you knew it was good for you. That you needed.
So the best moments in my life have always happened when I've done things without thinking about it too much, and also pushing past fear. So I knew I had to come back because I was afraid to come back, and I'm like, I came here for a reason. What's the alternative? Go back and what? Like plateau and just like fizzle out into nothingness.
Keep making the Naira you were tired of making.
Yeah, but also like there's going to be younger people.
Yeah.
And if you have a career that is based on people liking you, trends end. So where's my longevity? So I needed to evolve.
Yeah.
And so I remember I started getting giftings and things from brands. I was reaching out to brands on my own, being proactive, sending my media kits to like perfume brands and fashion brands here, and just being like, I'm in London, not because I want to be an influencer, but like it's an avenue to make money while I'm trying to figure out getting an acting agent and getting back in front of the camera and doing my consultancy. And soon enough, some brands just started sending me stuff. So Fenty Beauty sent me a box, just like a oh yeah, we know you're an influencer based in London right now. We just want to send you like 2 foundation things, which at that time I wasn't wearing foundation. I don't use makeup. Well, didn't use makeup. I just didn't. I just do makeup for acting and TV shows and things like that because you kind of have to have something on your face. But I just didn't necessarily like care for it. But I was using Fenty Beauty's like gloss bomb or whatever. Okay. And I was like, oh, cool. Let me even just do a post for them. And I opened the box and then there's a QR code on there being like, oh, be the face of Fenty Beauty UK.
Oh, okay.
And I look at it and I'm like, okay, I'm not obviously going to be the face of Fenty Beauty UK. So I actually took a picture of the QR code and I put it on my stories for my followers to apply.
Right, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you guys,
knock yourself
out. But I remember one day I was drinking a glass of Prosecco, in my fields. And I was kind of like, I saw the box again and I was like, why not? And honestly, a lot of things I did and I've been doing now, I kind of carry Bayo's energy with me because Bayo was always like, very like, go after everything you want, just be fearless, just do whatever, like try things, And I was like, well, Bayo, like, I'm sure Bayo told me to do this thing for vibes. And so I just, again, vibes, I was like, let me just apply for this thing and just leave it. And I did. I even forgot about it. I just like did it. 2 months passed and I get an email being like, oh, thanks for applying for Fenty Beauty, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, you have been shortlisted. This is the first round of shortlisting, but we'll be in touch with you soon. I was like, okay, cool. Because I thought it was an automated message. I'm like, December came, get another email being like, sorry it's taking so long to get back to you, but you have been shortlisted, but we're just taking extra time because Rihanna herself is picking the faces. And I was like, okay.
That's another flex in case you guys didn't clock it.
I know. But then by January, and bear in mind, by this time, again, I've now started, I'm kind of like in a new era right now where I'm just kind of like pushing past all the limitations. I didn't realize what 8-9 years being in United did to me. I became so scared to really fully be myself. Like I was pushing past things and I was, doing some flamboyant outfits and things like that, but I wasn't really doing it with my chest. You
still had to,
so I ended up having a party last year in November in Niger. I did Skin and Jewels at Alara. It was like an amazing party that I
remember seeing the
and
pictures.
It was like, again, just the energy of like, I don't even care anymore. Like life is short. You could literally just like die at any moment. Just like do whatever you need to do. So that was kind of the energy in which I used to apply for Fenty. Just so we're clear. Anyway, so January comes and they send me a message being like, do you have any current brands or beauty brands that you're associated with? I'm like, no. They're like, okay, well, there's one more final interview process before we decide on who we're going to make the thing. So just for this call. I was in Niger, by the way.
Okay.
It was December, January, so I was there. Yeah, there was nothing going on. It was cold here.
That's December.
I literally was meant to be at a desk for this meeting, but for scarcity and traffic, it was now my grand aunt's wake keeping.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, in Yaba.
Yeah.
So I was in Trad. And the meeting was meant to be happening. I had to go to the parking lot inside the car of the wakekeeping of my grand aunt, and I took the call there on my phone. And they were like, okay, you know what, we're going to try and make it an interview, but honestly, actually, we're just calling to tell you that you have been chosen as one of the new faces of Fenty Beauty UK. And I was just like shocked, but maintaining beauty because I didn't want to ugly cry. Because they were trying to like record it. I was like, oh my God, really? This is crazy. Like, I'm just so I was crying. I was like, I really needed this. I kept asking them to repeat, and I'm like, so say it again one more time so I can hear like the new face of Fenty Beauty. I'm like, that's crazy. But I couldn't tell anybody. Like I couldn't tell them. I obviously I could tell like my immediate family, but I couldn't tell because
obviously you don't want it. It has to
get out. It has to come out officially, right? So I remember, and the magnitude of that was I have a way of downplaying my achievements. I'm always kind of like, oh, it's fine. Like I'm sure there's like 20 other people they chose. No, there weren't. It was only 7 people, and only was,
I can't imagine how many people applied.
Thousands. They told it was thousands of people applied. They only chose 7 people. I'm the only black man there, only black guy from Nigeria. I'm also the oldest. Everybody else there was like 24 years old. I'm like 32, and I was like, work, So I'm really happy about that. It was the win I needed. And I kept thinking I was getting punked or like it was like a scam until like I got to set and we actually shot it. And then they made the announcement in May. I was hell keeping it a secret. Because, I was still like, things weren't really happening as fast as I liked here. And I was like, but I knew that this thing was coming. And it's been cool. But again, just do things based on vibes, and sometimes like you never know, because I already talked myself out of it before. And I just kind of...
Okay, so knowing everything you know now, and obviously this is like over the course of your life, where based off vibes, based off obviously leaning into like, your interests and your fullest self, what would you change?
What will I change? Like, I think I definitely would have given myself a bit more discipline earlier in terms of managing my time. And even just like work ethic, maybe when I was like younger, uni. I've definitely done a bit more jobs and things like that just to even make money while I was in college, because I wasn't working in college. Because I just felt I'm not the best at taking tests. I need to focus on that and not have too much on my plate so I can like make sure that my grades are good. But yes, I could have done that. That's one thing I'll change, and there's a few people that I would like to unmeet. That's all.
Fair enough. Okay, so we usually end this format by like ask 2 questions. So the first one, who would you love to see like sitting on that chair you're sitting on, like having this conversation with me?
Oh God, maybe Fisaya Longa.
That's a good.
She's amazing. I think like what she's done with Kai has been really.
Yeah, the story is very compelling.
Yeah, and she's a business person that I really respect. And maybe like more Nollywood actors. Like, have you interviewed Timini before?
No, I haven't interviewed Timini before.
He has a lot to say.
Okay, interesting.
He's done a lot too.
Yeah, he has done a lot. Yeah, we haven't done any Nollywood person on this show.
Nollywood people. There's stories there. People don't understand. Nollywood is hard.
I can imagine
it is hard. It is not easy because they're trying to shoot all these movies like super quickly because of the limited budgets. Yeah, you have like 24-hour days sometimes. I shot DOD in 2 weeks. That's a feature film in 2 weeks.
And I think obviously this plays into like obviously the conversation around like the quality of the films we see. Because when people are very like scathing in their reviews, I know people who obviously really have worked within the industry will tell you like what you expect when we're filming these things. Like,
I will say across board, working behind the scenes and working as an actor. Before I started acting, I didn't really. I was very quick to judge things, but now I don't. Any production I see out there, even if it's shit, like I don't ever attack people that do it because it's not easy.
So is there anything you'd like to ask me?
Please, how do you make my money?
If I knew the answer to that question, I would not be here.
I mean, well, actually, I get one question I want to ask you is like, what has made you, want to do these series and getting to understand people's stories? Like, what's the driving force behind it?
I think it's, again, being fascinated by people. And I think this is obviously something that maybe part comes from having been in Nigeria for a long time, but also having left at different points. So I think that gives you like a sense of like perspective. So sometimes you might see someone and think, you know, what they're doing is not that interesting, or what they're doing is not that like, it's not that wild, it's not that crazy. And then when you think about it, you're like, yo, this person is doing this thing in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've just been like surrounded by just so much excellence. So I've seen people do some of the most amazing things I have seen like on a cultural level in my life. And this person is maybe 1 or 2 degrees of separation away. So it's like, or you went to school. Yeah, like it's just like all these people are around you, and you kind of obviously are just, I guess part of it is being curious. So understanding how someone like a Denola Gray, who is this person we see now, like what are the life decisions or what are the things that they did across the way that went into making them who they are.
Yeah.
So it's very like trying to understand people's journeys so that anyone who is, you know, because I think, you know, all these things are important for various reasons. One is like to document. So let people kind of obviously understand in 20 years time, 30 years time, if they're trying to understand who this guy was in, you know, the early 2000s in Nigeria, they can kind of obviously have like a frame of reference. But part of it is also to inspire. So like you want people to look at this and understand again, like obviously the name Overnight Success is like, it's clear.
Yeah,
like, bro, there's no such thing as an overnight
no such
success.
thing.
This thing takes time. So it's important that you understand it takes time. You have to like obviously put in your 100 hours and obviously eventually, hopefully, like success will come from it. So I think, yeah, like obviously document, inspire. Yeah, I think that's primarily
One more question though.
Yeah.
So what's the common like theme and thread with all the people you've interviewed about like what has made them successful?
I think a common theme and thread is just consistency. So like everyone had a point where they were down.
Yeah.
Everyone had a point where, like, you know, things maybe weren't working out, like, you know, parents weren't supporting or you were broke. But then I think is understanding that like you being broke today does not mean you're going to be broke tomorrow if you're consistent. So part of what that is just showing up.
Yeah.
More often than not, showing up is half the work.
Yeah.
Once you show up, like that's like you've done 50%, and then like the like 20-30% is what you do when you show up. But if you show up, you will like there's something that comes from that. So I think that's like the common thread, like people being consistent, and again, like not operating from a place of fear.
Thank you. But I mean, yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, thanks a lot for doing this with us, Denola. It's been very
No,
very
thank you.
very
Thanks
interesting
for,
and riveting.
Thank you for having me.
Catch you guys next week.